Hi everybody! This video is going to be a little bit different than all the videos that I have made in the past, which have mostly been tutorials. Lately, I've been getting a lot of questions from aspiring engineers that want to break into the software engineering world. But the questions that they ask me hold a lot of myths about what it's really like working in this field. People think that you need to be a math genius or that all software engineers work in Silicon Valley, which is not true, or that once you become a software engineer, you really don't have to learn anything else because you've made it. But the truth is, there's a lot of misconceptions about software engineering, and it's important to separate that fact from fiction if you want to make informed decisions about your career. And that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to talk and debunk some of the most common myths about software engineering. So whether you're just starting out in your career or you're an experienced engineer looking to learn more about your field and your options and choices in your future, I hope that this video will help clear up some of the confusions to give you a better understanding of what it's really like to be a software engineer. So let's get started. Now, before I just jump in and address all these myths, you might be asking, who are you to even say these are myths or facts? Well, you're on this channel, so you know that my name is Joanne Skiles, and I have been a software engineer for over a decade. I have worked in multiple industries. I worked in defense at Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics. Then I moved into more of the entertainment industry, and I worked at Disney as a contractor, and then I worked at Golf Now. And then I moved into the health tech world, where I worked at two startup companies. One was a small company called Sister X, and then another company called Olive. And during that time, I took a sabbatical. I decided to become a professor because I had a PhD in computer science. So I went on to teach as a professor, and I determined that I liked teaching, but I like software engineering a lot more, and I came back. So I've been through a lot, and that path hasn't been a straight line. There's been a lot of waves. And so in my past decade, I have lived through and seen what the software engineering world is like. And even in my own growth, I had my own misconceptions about what you can and can't do in the world of software engineering. So take it from a person who is experienced and has gone through this career on what being a software engineer is all about. So let's start with myth number 1, which is you need a computer science degree to be a software engineer. All right, I have a PhD in computer science. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You don't need a computer science degree. All right. But that to be said, I am not saying having a computer science degree is useless. It's not. Having a computer science degree opens a lot of doors into getting that first job. But there are other ways to get that job. And once you land the job and you start having experience, the weight of the degree becomes less important. That's also another thing to be addressed, is that basically going to a school like MIT may be great for your getting that first job, but you can go to a smaller school and still get a great job. For my bachelor's, I went to Florida Gulf Coast University, and for my master's, I went to Florida Atlantic University. They're not really that big name of schools, and I still got my job. So what I'm trying to say here is a computer science degree opens doors that may have been closed, but those doors may be able to be cracked open because maybe you have some certifications or you have some projects on your GitHub repo to show that you do know the tools and the tech that the company wants. Also, if you have a college degree and it happens to be in finance or accounting or something, don't worry. There are many successful software engineers that have degrees in other fields. Or basically, you've taught yourself the skills that you need to excel in the field. So how do you get that first job is by showing that you have those skills. So even if you have a computer science degree or you don't have a computer science degree, make sure that you have projects on your resume that you can point to show future employers This is what I know. Have public repositories on GitHub and have projects that you can speak and talk about and the lessons that you've learned from it. All right, now myth number 2. Myth number 2 is that software engineers work alone and you don't really need to have good communication skills. And that is 100% false. While software engineers often work independently, you work on your own separate tasks, you also need to be able to communicate effectively with your team. And you also need to be able to talk with your team members. And those team members may not all be software engineers. A lot of companies follow an agile methodology, which means that you have a few software engineers and then maybe you have a project manager and a product manager. You might have QA as well. When you work further along in your career, you may need to go and talk to some stakeholders or people that are outside of your organization. If you want to level up in your career, be it a people manager like me, where I'm a senior software engineering manager, or you want to become a distinguished engineer, you still need to have good communication skills. It's essential for success in this field. Not having good communication skills will prevent you from growing in your career. All right, myth number 3. Once you become a software engineer, you don't need to learn new technologies. Software engineering is an ever-evolving field. And you need to always update your skills and you need to be curious and wanting to learn more. When I started off my career, I was a .NET developer, but even .NET has changed from the .NET framework to .NET Core. And on top of that, depending on where I went to work, I needed to learn different things and different technologies. I slowly morphed into more of a full stack developer from a back-end developer to adapt to what I need. And now today, I don't even use .NET anymore. I use a lot of Node.js and I focus a lot in AWS. If you asked me 3 years ago, what I was doing, I was working in .NET Core and I was on Azure. You have to adapt, you have to grow, and you have to be willing to learn new technologies to address why something works or why something doesn't work. If no one evolved or changed their skills or got better or leveled up, then we'd still be stuck with mainframes and punch cards. So a successful software engineer is curious and wants to learn more. All right, myth number 4. All software engineers work in Silicon Valley. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that's not true. But what I see more of the myth is that I can't find a job because I live in Florida and I can't move out of Florida, or I live in Ohio and I can't move out of Ohio. But there are a lot of remote opportunities. There's also a lot of companies that may not focus on technology, but they still need software engineers. Companies today need tech. You could work for a smaller company that needs a software engineer, even though they work in banking or they work in healthcare, right? They still need a software engineer to work on their systems. So remember, software engineering jobs are available in all cities around the world. And software engineers can work remotely or find employment in various industries. So don't focus and limit your opportunities by focusing just on working in Silicon Valley, which honestly is really expensive. All right, so this myth number 5, software engineering is a 9-to-5 job. And that's not really true. Software engineering hours can vary and it really depends on the company. And also, it's not uncommon to work long hours or be on call to handle emergencies for important projects. So if you're really looking to just coast and just take it easy, software engineering might not be it for you because it is a demanding field and it requires a strong work ethic and the willingness to put in extra time when it's necessary. The key word here is when it is necessary. If you find yourself always working 40 plus hours every week and you're stressed beyond belief and there's always a fire and everything is just constantly a dumpster fire, there's something wrong with your job. Okay? They're either managing it poorly, they don't have enough individuals, and if you're not being paid to reflect that, it's time to find another opportunity. So keep in mind that it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a little more flexible. does depend on the company, and it's not uncommon to work over 40 hours a week every once in a while. But if you're working over 40 hours a week all the time, you need to start asking questions on how the company is managed. And if you're a manager and you have your engineers working overtime all the time, you might need to question how you're running the team. Something probably needs to change. All right, on to myth number 6. All software engineers are geniuses. I'm definitely not a genius. And yes, it does require a certain level of intelligence and problem solving. It doesn't require a genius level IQ at all. Software engineering is a field that's open to a wide range of abilities and backgrounds. And it's really important to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. Not everybody has to be this crazy mathematical nerd that can answer every single question, that knows everything immediately. You're allowed to ponder and think through the process. And actually, that is better. We don't need everybody knowing the answer immediately, because sometimes we need to step back and think about why. So remember that not all software engineers are geniuses, and the majority are not geniuses. They may want to believe it, but that's not the case. Myth number 7, software engineering is a male-dominated field. Now, one woman, but yes, the tech industry historically has had a gender imbalance, but it is changing, and there are a lot of successful female software engineers, and the number of women in the field is steadily increasing. So if you're concerned that you're not going to be able to fit in with all the guys in software engineering, don't worry. There are a lot of females out there. There are a lot of women that are willing to be your mentor and help you grow. And it's very important to have different voices and different backgrounds that are in the software engineering field. Having one dominant voice is not going to grow the field. We need to have more voices from different backgrounds, different places, different opportunities to make sure that we continue to grow overall and improve our field going forward. So don't hold back and don't pull yourself back thinking that this is not the world for you because it's all men, because it's not all men, okay? There are many people from many different backgrounds, and you too can succeed in software engineering. So on to myth number 8, which might have been addressed in myth number 5, and that's software engineering is a low stress job. I received this from a lot of individuals that work alongside with me that maybe don't understand everything that I'm doing. So they see me not typing all the time and maybe thinking, and they think that, okay, there's not really a lot for us to do, but we're thinking a lot. So my line to this is, while software engineering can be rewarding and it can be an enjoyable career, it's also stressful at times. There are deadlines that sometimes I like to call fake dates or unrealistic, and we do crunch periods in order to make sure that we hit those. We also have technical challenges, issues where something is not working exactly like you think it should. You have to start thinking about the fact that when data replicates from one region to another in AWS, it's not actually done in time. How do you handle that? There's a pressure to produce high quality code, because if you're working on a critical system, if it goes down, people could die. And all this contributes to a lot of stress in the field. So don't think that software engineering is always low stress. There are times where it can be stressful. But if it's stressful all the time, again, I advise to start looking into what actually is the problem. Because if your job is stressful all the time, there are other factors that are contributing to it. If change cannot be done within an organization, well then, it's time for a change. So this moves on to myth number 9, that software engineering is not a creative field. And this is completely not true. Software engineering requires a high level of creativity and problem solving skills. You have to come up with new and innovative solutions to complex technical problems. And you need to be able to think outside the box to find creative ways to solve problems. Maybe it's not creativity in that traditional sense of drawing or painting or playing a musical instrument, but it is still there is still a high level of creativity that is needed. We're not just code kitties. So this moves to myth number 10, that once you become a software engineer, you can't switch to a different career, which I've lived through. That is not true. You can switch careers. You can become a professor like I did. You can become a project manager. You could become a product manager. You could completely pivot and go into finance if that suddenly becomes the thing that you're interested in. You can always change. And if you work in finance or are a doctor or a nurse, guess what? You can become a software engineer. It works both ways. You can make these changes. And it's actually important that people feel comfortable in making changes if you're not fully satisfied. Changing your career from one to the other is healthy for you. This myth is even deeper. When I worked in the defense industry, I was always told that if you work for more than 5 years in defense, you can never leave. We tell these things because we want to make it out like you're trapped, that you don't have a choice, but that is not true. You can always change your path. You can always make a switch. Don't think that if you do this one action, you have destroyed your entire career. That's just not true. And finally, the last myth that I'm going to leave you with is, in order to become a software engineer, I need an expensive computer. For some reason, everybody thinks they need like a MacBook Pro or something, right? To become a software engineer. This job is the first job that I've ever had actually a Mac. I've worked on Windows machines. That is perfectly fine. Having a reasonably priced laptop is wonderful. We're in a day and age where you can even run your code in a browser. So don't hold yourself back from learning, thinking that I need a $3,000+ machine in order to even begin to learn, because that is not true. You can start now. You can start now on your Chromebook. You can start with a cheaper laptop. It doesn't matter. Just start learning. Start trying to code. Use different tools. Just get moving. So there you have it. 11 myths about software engineering that have been debunked. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and it's given you a better understanding of what it's like to work in this field, and it helped you separate fact from fiction. Software engineering is dynamic and it's exciting, and it's a rewarding career that offers a wide range of opportunities from people with a variety of skills and backgrounds. So whether you have a degree in computer science or you're self-taught, if you have a passion for problem solving and you're willing to learn and you want to continue to grow, you can succeed in this field. Don't get lost in the myths and the misconceptions that you've heard about software engineering. So keep an open eye and do your research and make informed decisions about your career path. So if you liked what you saw, subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified for maybe some other videos like this or tutorials that I provide around different software engineering and AWS tutorials. And until then, happy learning.